I forbade my son from attending his GF's funeral, thinking it would save him from her toxic influence. He defied me, and I locked him out forever. My 20-year-old son, Noah, has always been the focal point of my life. For a long time, it was just the two of us. Noah's father, Mark, left when he was 10, and I was the one who kept things together. I worked 2 jobs, made sure he had all he needed, pushed him to earn good grades, and helped him plan for college. I was strict, but I needed to be. I was not going to let my only child waste his future. Then he met Maya, a 19-year-old female. She was in his senior year at the same high school and came from what I can only characterize as a shattered family. Her mother, Karen, was continuously changing jobs, and her father, David, was not present. From the time I met her, I had the impression she intended to bring Noah down to her level. She was always outgoing, passionate, and emotional about everything, the type of girl who thrived in chaos. She'd show up at our house in ripped jeans and unkempt hair, calling me Mrs. Reed as if we were pals. I informed Noah right away that I did not approve of her and that she was not the type of girl he should be serious with at his age. But he did not listen. He claimed I didn't comprehend her. They were inseparable for more than a year. I began to notice that his grades were slipping. He'd stay out late, cease checking in, and arrive home smelling like her perfume. I told him he was becoming someone I didn't recognize. We battled almost weekly. I even tried to put my foot down by telling him he was not permitted to see her under my house. He labeled me controlling and claimed I didn't want him to be happy. It was not that. I wanted him to be protected. I recognized my own mistakes in him. I too became pregnant at the age of 20 with a man who abandoned me before the ink on the birth certificate dried. I've spent half my life excavating out of that hole. I did not want Noah to repeat history with a girl who had no future. Then the accident occurred. It was Sunday morning. Maya and her friends were traveling home from a late-night concert when the driver fell asleep behind the wheel. The automobile flipped. 4 children were hospitalized, and Maya did not survive. Noah was at work when he received the call from one of her pals, and I'll never forget his reaction when he heard it. He collapsed right in the kitchen. For 4 days, he seldom ate or slept. I tried to console him, but he refused to let me approach. He just sat in his room, sobbing over her images. I reminded him that while I understood his sadness, he couldn't let it destroy him. I told him he needed to move on, focus on the future, and not wallow in grief over a girl who had made all the wrong decisions. Then he informed me he wanted to attend the burial. I said no. He lost it. He yelled at me, saying that I was callous, that she meant everything to him, and that he couldn't live with himself if he didn't say goodbye. I informed him that funerals were for family and that she was not his wife. He described her as more of a family member than I ever was. That one stings. I told him he couldn't go because it would merely rekindle old scars and he should focus on college applications rather than languishing. He went off and slammed his door, and I assumed that was the end of it. The next morning, I awoke to find his bed made and his shoes gone. His phone was still charging on his desk, but his car keys were gone. I contacted his pals, but nobody answered. Later that afternoon, I noticed some photos on social media. He stood at the casket, grieving in front of everyone. Someone had tagged him. My heart sank and I felt ashamed, as if I had been publicly disobeyed by my own son. I was waiting when he got home that night. I told him to go. I told him if he believed he was so mature, he could go live like an adult. I replied I'd had enough of being insulted in my own home. He raged at me, saying I was evil and that she would hate me even more now. I told him to go. He walked out the door without saying another word. I locked it behind him. That night, I grabbed his clothes, posters, and computer. I donated the majority of it the next day. I tossed away a handful of his personal items, including letters, photographs, and keepsakes from that girl. I did not want them in my home. I convinced myself I was ridding the house of negative energy, the toxic influence that had turned my son against me. When neighbors and family inquired, I replied Noah had fled. I informed them that he had packed everything and departed because he wanted to start afresh. I even told my sister Rachel that he was probably staying with Maya's family. I figured that would make them stop asking questions. It did. That was 10 days ago. I have not heard a single word from him. There are no calls, messages, or anything. Noah's best friend, Ryan, texted me that he was safe, but did not say where. I told him to tell Noah that I had changed the locks. He never responded. I'm not sure what I expected. I expected him to come back begging, or at least call. once he realized how foolish he had been. But now the house seems empty. The silence is terrible. I constantly checking my phone for messages, but they never come. I still believe I was correct not to let him attend that funeral. That girl damaged him, and if I hadn't intervened, he would have followed her road straight into catastrophe. But now I am beginning to worry if I went too far. My sister thinks I'm cruel. She claimed if Mom were still alive, she would call me a monster. It aches. I did everything for that boy. I devoted decades of my life to raising him alone. I only wanted to prevent him from falling into the same trap I did. I used to believe that being firm meant loving someone. I figured keeping him away from her would save him. Instead, it feels as if I buried them both. Everyone online calls me callous. One of Maya's friends even made a Facebook post about me, writing, "I banned my son from mourning." People are messaging me, calling me names. I don't think anyone realizes how terrible it is to watch your child spiral into something you know is bad for them. Perhaps I went too far, but I don't believe I was wrong to try to protect him. I still haven't slept. Every time I close my eyes, I hear him shouting, "You buried me with her." I keep seeing his face in that funeral photo. He appeared older, damaged, like if I had lost him long before that night. I leave the porch light on just in case. I don't know if he will ever return. Update 1. It's been about 3 weeks since my original article, and I need to clarify a few points since people, both online and in person, are spreading misinformation about me. I've been accused of being abusive, of discarding my son like trash, and of being some sort of monster. I understand how that post made me seem. I was angry when I wrote it, raw and hurt. Maybe I did not explain things well enough. Perhaps people read what they wanted to read, but I refuse to let them rewrite the story as if I were some cold-hearted villain who despised her own child. Noah still has not returned home. That is the portion that I cannot spin or soften. Regardless of hard I try, I know where he is now. Maya's parents visited my place 5 days ago. They did not even call first. They just arrived on my porch with that look. The one individuals give when they've already decided what kind of person you are. Her mother, Karen, stood there gripping her pocketbook as if she were about to swing it at me. Her father, David, said they needed to talk about Noah. Apparently, he has been staying with them. They stated he turned up the night after I told him to leave, still dressed for the funeral. They took him in because, quote, "No child deserves to be homeless after losing the person they love." When I inquired how long they meant to keep him there, David said, "As long as he needs." Karen then looked me dead in the eyes and stated, "He's safe with us. You've done enough." That phrase keeps repeating in my thoughts. I told them they were overstepping, that this was not their place, and that they were using his pain to fill the void their daughter had left. Karen shot back, "At least they didn't throw their child out into the street." I told her she was fortunate to have a child worth keeping. She slapped me hard. I didn't hit back. I'm not that type of person. I asked them both to leave before calling the cops. They left, but not before David added, "You buried him right along with her." It's the second time I've heard those words, first from Noah and now from them. That sentence is becoming very irritating to me. I tried calling him after that visit. Clearly, he did not take up. His old numbers remained disconnected, so I received their home number from my sister Rachel, who somehow possessed it. He responded after a few rings. He didn't even sound like my son when he said hi. It was flat and freezing. I said, "Noah, it's Mom." There was nearly a minute of stillness before he replied, "You buried me with her." He then hung up. I know everyone will tell me I deserved it, but no one understands what it's like to see your child drift away from you piece by piece. To have him idolize someone you know will ruin him. Maya was not a horrible child, but she was troubled. She had a wild attitude that drew everyone else into the storm. I was not attempting to punish Noah. I was trying to prevent him from drowning. And perhaps I was overly harsh, but I was desperate. Parents do not receive manuals for this. After my first post, someone in our town, I'm not sure who, found it and shared screenshots on Facebook. Everyone now knows. People from my church, neighbors, coworkers, and even Noah's former teachers. It has been humiliating. The comments are harsh. I've been branded abusive, narcissistic, and callous. Our pastor, Pastor Bennett, told me, "Maybe you should take some time away from community events because you've become a distraction." Translation, he doesn't want to deal with the gossip. Even my sister turned against me. She texted me saying she had seen the article and that I needed professional assistance. I informed her that she has always had a soft spot for drama and has no idea how to raise a child alone. She replied, "I don't need to know. I know you went too far." Another phrase that I keep hearing. Okay, maybe I did, but no one is looking at the whole picture. Noah has always been emotional and sensitive. He takes everything to heart. Even as a child, he would cry if I raised my voice. I needed to be the strong one, the adult. Someone has to keep this family together. If I had let every teenage whim of his rule our lives, we'd still be cleaning up after his actions. I have never been unkind for the sake of it. Every rule and limit stemmed from love, the type that does not crumble just because your child smashes a door. What hurts the most is that people assume I gave his belongings out of malice. That is not true. Yes, I got rid of some items that reminded me of her. Letters, pictures, trinkets, but I also donated many of his clothes to charity. I did not burn or toss them away, as some have suggested. I wanted to help other disadvantaged families. If anything, that was my attempt to convert a difficult situation into something positive. But everyone turns it into a nasty deed. Even my coworkers look at me differently today. One of them muttered that I donated her son rather than his clothes. That day, I came close to quitting. I've been praying every night for him to return home. I don't want to be right. I just want him safe. I've kept the porch light on since the night he left. My neighbors surely think I'm nuts. Perhaps I am. But when I see the glow in the driveway, I nearly think he's about to pull in. Last night, I learned from a mutual friend that Noah has been seeing her former counselor, Dr. Collins, for therapy. That felt like another betrayal, as if he were rewriting his pain as a tale in which I was the villain and she was the saint. According to the acquaintance, Maya's parents drive him there twice a week, and then he remains for dinner with them. They even assisted him in enrolling in online programs because he did not feel comfortable returning home. I can't convey how angry I was after hearing that. Not jealousy, something worse. I did all of the difficult parts of motherhood. I stayed awake with him through every fever, grief, and missing homework project. I taught him to drive. I worked double shifts to purchase his first laptop. I worked hard to get him into a decent college, and now these people, these strangers, get to play house with him because I made a single mistake. That is not fair. I emailed him last night. It was not ideal. I was emotional, but I assured him I was still his mother. I just always thought that I would always love him and that he did not belong in that house. I informed him that they were trying to replace their daughter with him. I said, "Noah, you're not their son. You're mine." He didn't respond. Instead, this morning, I received a short message from an unknown number. It simply said, "Stop contacting me. You've buried me with her 3 times. Same words. I don't know what to feel anymore. Guilt, fury, or both. I want to believe I can still solve this, that one day he will see I did the right thing. But with each passing day, it feels like the ground is slipping away from under me. People keep encouraging me to apologize and accept responsibility for my actions, but they don't realize that an apology would not restore the years I spent constructing our life. It will not make him trust me again. Sometimes I sit in his old room, or what's left of it, and reflect on how peaceful it is. There is no music, no dirty clothes on the floor, and no sound of him pacing while on the phone. I used to gripe about all of these things. Now, the silence feels like punishment. I'm not sure if he'll ever come home, but if he does, I'll be prepared. I will still expect respect and boundaries. I am his mother, not his enemy, but I'll agree that the house feels colder without him. Update 2. It's been 8 months since my previous post. If you're here to gloat, you'll get your fill quickly. As far as I know, Noah is officially and forever gone. He relocated out of state in March. He is currently attending some college in Oregon. I only discovered out when Rachel forwarded me a Christmas letter from one of Maya's relatives. Of all people. Apparently, he has been accepted into the photography program there. Funny, because when I pushed him for engineering scholarships, he claimed I was strangling his creative energy. I suppose he finally achieved the independence he desired. He changed everything, even his phone number and email address. I've been blocked on every social media platform he has ever used. The only thing that remains is his previous Facebook profile picture, which shows him and Maya at a pumpkin farm. He's locked there at 18, smiling as if he doesn't have the entire world ahead of him. I keep saying he as if he were a stranger because that is how it seems right now. A stranger I once raised. My reputation in town has deteriorated since the last update. I used to be the head of our church's women's auxiliary. They replaced me discreetly. No meeting, no thank you present, and no mention. People still smile when they see me at the grocery store, but it's a pity grin. The type you give to someone you believe is damaged. I hear whispers when walking down the baking aisle. That's the woman who threw her son out. One morning, someone scribbled "monster" in chalk on my mailbox. At first, I wanted to shout at everyone that they didn't know the complete story and that I was protecting my child from making the same mistakes I did. But after months of silence from him, I began to worry if they knew. Perhaps they didn't need the specifics to identify a mother who went too far. Nonetheless, I refuse to portray myself as evil. I am not a storybook villain twirling her hair in the dark. I was a mother doing what she believed was necessary. People act as if love should always be soft and yielding. That is not love. Love is discipline. It's structure. It's knowing when to say no, even if it means breaking your heart. That was what I used to tell myself, anyway. The house feels different now. I used to think I desired silence. No loud music, no slamming doors. Now I can't take it. It's a humming silence that seems heavy and vibrant. Even though I know he isn't there, I can sometimes hear his footsteps. I have not touched his old room since February. I tried it first. I actually did. After I tossed everything away that night, I promised myself not to dwell. But one day, I discovered one of his old school notebooks at the bottom of a box I had overlooked, and for some reason, I couldn't get rid of it. I put it on his shelf, and that sparked it. I slowly began putting things back together. An old hoodie, a baseball cap, and a photo of him with our dog. The room appears to have been lived in again. However, this is a falsehood. It is a shrine. Now, I get what that sounds like, but it is not obsessive. It is memory. It's attempting to preserve evidence that there once was laughing in this house. In late March, I drove to the cemetery. I told myself I was going to see my parents' graves, but that was a lie. I parked at the far end, near the section where Maya was buried. I waited until after dusk, when the caregivers were gone. Her burial was adorned with fresh flowers, predominantly lilies, as well as a few wild daisies, which she liked to collect and braid into her hair when she visited our house. I remained there for a while, watching the wind blow through them. Someone had left a camera keychain and a small, folded letter behind a stone. I didn't have to open it to recognize it was from him. I'd brought my own note. I had rewrote it 3 times. The initial version was angry and accusatory, much like everything else I'd spoken throughout my life. The second was defensive, an attempt to excuse what I had done. The third was the only one that I could do without shaking. It said, "I wanted to protect you, but I forgot you weren't a boy anymore. You didn't need saving. You needed trust. I failed you." I left it beneath one of the blooms. Then I sat in my car, sobbing until my throat burnt. I hadn't sobbed since his father, Mark, had left 14 years earlier. A few days later, I received a voicemail from a number I did not know. The voice was older and calmer, but I knew it was his. He spoke. "Mom, I got your note. I'm not mad anymore. I'm grateful in a way. You taught me how to survive things I thought would kill me. You also taught me how to walk away from things that were destroying me. Thank you for that." He left a message before I responded. There is no return number, only that message. That's the cruelest kindness of all, hearing his forgiveness and knowing it doesn't provide a way back in. I play it virtually every night. At first, I viewed it as a sign that he will eventually return home, but it has been months and nothing. I believe that message was not an invitation. It was a goodbye. My sister Rachel suggested that I sell the house and relocate somewhere else to start again. She commented, "This place is haunted." Perhaps she is correct, but it feels like the only thing I have left of him. I wander through each room, recalling the sound of his words echoing off the walls. Every crack in the floorboards feels like a conversation that never ended. Sometimes, late at night, I sit at the kitchen table and write letters that I will never send. Letters in which I inform him about minor things like the new neighbors who installed wind chimes, the dog 2 streets over that barks every morning, and the smell of rain on the old fence. I imagine he is somewhere warm and full of sunshine. This is how I cope. I've started going to therapy not because I think I need to be fixed. I still don't believe I'm broken, but I can't continue living in this half-life of guilt and silence. Dr. Collins, the therapist, asked me during our first session why I despised Maya so much. I told her I didn't. I despised what she represented. She questioned what that meant, and I replied, freedom, because that's what it was. She was the type of girl who rushed into life without thinking twice, unconcerned about the repercussions. I used to be like that, before Noah, prior to taking on responsibility. Prior to becoming pregnant at the age of 20, I had to abandon all of my dreams. Maya reminded me of the girl I used to be, carefree, innocent, and full of optimism, and I despised her for it. Dr. Collins commented that it sounded like I wasn't attempting to save Noah from her. I was attempting to prevent myself from remembering. I did not have an answer for that. I no longer post online, not after my last update was widely shared, but I keep reading the comments. Some people were harsh, undoubtedly, but others said something that stayed with me. Control is not the same as love. I have thought about that sentence every day since. When I was younger, I thought love meant protecting others from sorrow, even if it meant causing it. I imagined I could shape my son's life in the same way I would shape a garden, pruning what didn't belong and cutting what would grow wild. But humans are not gardens. You are not allowed to cut their hearts to make them neat. You may either let them bloom or lose them. And I lost him. The house is quiet again tonight. The porch light is still on. I've never turned it off, not once in 8 months. But now I realize it isn't a beacon. It is a memorial. Final update. 1 year has passed. I began by counting the days, followed by the weeks. Then I stopped for a bit since it made the hours seem longer. I now know the number, 366. When I wake up, I announce it out, much like a weather report. It reminds me that time moves, even when I feel stuck. People told me to let the thread die, accept my guilt, and go silent. I did get quiet, but I don't believe shame solves anything on its own. Outsiders see silence as orderly. Inside, it rots. I'm writing today because I have something to say, and quitting the story at the midway point would be one more act of control. I've done enough of those. I made changes since my last update. Not big movie changes, but actual ones. I joined 3 organizations. One is a grief circle that meets in a church basement on Wednesday evenings. The pastor, Pastor Bennett, is unfamiliar with my name. I like it. We sit in ancient chairs, drink cardboard-tasting coffee, and say difficult sentences aloud. The other is for parents with estranged adult children. The room is quieter. The words get trapped in the throat. People whisper their children's ages as if they were lit candles. I still see my therapist, Dr. Collins, on Mondays. She does not allow me to dodge. She asks few inquiries, then waits. I initially despised her for keeping me waiting. Now I understand that stillness is where the truth finally emerges. She made me write the same words every morning for a month. Control is not care. It felt stupid. Then, on day 14, I wrote it and remembered the porch light I had left on and understood it wasn't a welcome. It was a spotlight. Despite the fact that the stage was empty, I continued to direct the scenario. I tried to reach Noah in the spring, nor a surprise attack, nor a stunt. I went through the normal channels, the student services office at his college. I submitted a short letter in the envelope provided for this reason. It read, "I hope you're safe. I'm in treatment. I am proud of you, whether you talk to me or not." I included my phone number with my address. I signed it, Mom. 3 weeks later, the form email arrived. It stated that the student had requested that no personal texts be forwarded. It was nice, clear, and final. I read it 3 times, closed my laptop, and waited in the backyard until the motion lights turned off. I didn't drive to the airport. I did not seek out his dorm. I didn't call anyone to plead. I went to my Wednesday group and announced out. He asked for no contact. It stung, but it felt clean. Summer made the house hot. I left the windows open at night, and the breeze brought other people's lives into my kitchen. Laughter, a baby wailing, and a pop song from 2 streets away. I stopped sitting in Noah's room. I shut and left the door closed, not as a shrine, but as a boundary. Dr. Collins remarked, "You keep trying to rebuild the past when you are supposed to be building a future." I told her I didn't know how. She explained, "Professional stubbornness counts for something. Aim it at the correct object." So I utilized it. I discovered a youth center 2 towns away that hosts a program for teenagers who have lost someone. I filled out documents, went through background checks, and attended training where they taught you to listen without fixing. The first night, I observed a boy scuff the toe of his shoe on the floor for an hour without saying anything. The second night, he said his father's name and wailed into his sleeves. I sat beside him and counted my own breaths. I didn't give a lecture about resilience. I handed him a box of tissues and told him, I am not going anywhere. When I left, my clothes smelled like bleach from the rec room, and I was fatigued in a way that suddenly made sense. Around October, I received a letter. The envelope was cream and made of thick paper, similar to what is used for weddings or condolence cards. My hands shook as I opened it, thinking it might be from Noah. It was not. It came from Maya's parents, Karen and David. I sat at the table and read it twice before the words became still. They stated that they had not forgotten what had occurred to us. They wrote that certain wounds produce scar tissue while others remained sensitive. They reported that Noah was doing well. He is still in school, he has friends. He works part-time at a camera business that still processes film in the rear. He will graduate on time if he maintains his current grades. They wrote that he doesn't detest me. He is adamant about no contact. That firm was underlined once. They claimed he asked them to let me know he was safe, housed, and not doing anything to dull himself. I cried loudly and quickly, like a hiccup. The second page featured the kind of mercy that stings. Karen wrote, "There are details I never knew." She said that she debated whether to include them. Then she penned them nevertheless because secrets become poison if left buried too long. Maya was pregnant when she died prematurely. She had informed Noah a week before the crash. They were both terrified. They had not informed their parents. They planned to speak with a counselor. He'd scheduled the appointment. It was the Wednesday after. There is no after. I set the letter down and stood in Noah's room, the door open. The air smelled like dust and laundry detergent. I sat on the side of the bed, spoke the word grandchild into an empty room, and felt something in my chest gently tear, the way old fabric gives when you pull on a rip. I now understand why he said those words to me. You buried me with her. He had lost more than just a girl. He'd lost a future that he hadn't even had time to plan. I respected his right to mourn in the place and time that was appropriate for him. I did not simply miss the mark. I took the bow out of his hands. I replied back to Karen and David. I didn't argue. I did not provide a defense. I thanked them for telling the truth and for being compassionate to my son, even when I wasn't. I stated that I would not contact them again until asked. I intended it. Some people believe that setting boundaries is a sign of weakness. It isn't. It is a barrier you erect around your darkest tendencies. November brought colder temperatures and shorter days. Work remained steady. People in my community eventually ran out of gossip or were bored. One woman in the cereal aisle tried to corner me with pity, but I answered, "No thank you," and left. It felt like a small backbone was sprouting back. My sister Rachel called on Thanksgiving. She asked if I wanted company. I invited her to come by at noon for pie and coffee, not dinner. She sniffed at the limit. She arrived at lunchtime. She departed at 1:30. We did not discuss Noah for more than 5 minutes. I didn't weep. I felt relieved when she backed out of my driveway. Relief is not treachery. It's breathing. December is always a tough month. Lights light up. Music plays in stores, and memories become loud. The youth center requested volunteers to help a few families decorate. I answered yes, no, and yes again. The morning of, I awoke at 4:30 a.m. and sat on the couch with the tree lot flyer in my lap, remembering how Noah and I debated about tinsel versus ribbon last Christmas. He despised ribbon. He claimed it made a tree resemble a birthday present. I purchased tinsel. I believed that was a sign of compromise. The center trip concluded around nightfall. The air had a bite. I drove home via a path I hadn't taken in a year. Habit, I suppose, or muscle memory. It led me past Karen and David's street. I promised myself I'd keep going. I slowed at the corner anyhow. Their house is set back from the road, with blue shutters and a porch swing. Somebody had strung nice white lights along the railing. Through the window, I noticed a tall man on a ladder inside, reaching to place a star. The person on the floor reached up to hold it steady. He laughed. I recognize his laugh. It begins in his chest and hides in his neck. I parked a half block away and watched like a robber. I despised myself for it. I watched anyway. He appears to be older, not hard or exhausted, but rather filled out. His hair used to flop into his eyes, but it's shorter now. His stance differs. He seemed to have picked up his life and moved it to a new location. He moved the ladder, climbed down, and hugged the person holding it. David. Then a petite woman entered from the kitchen, a dish towel on her shoulder, and kissed his temple. Karen gave him a spool of wire. He took it and held it as if it were the most normal thing in the world, being handed what you need in a room where you are desired. I could have gotten out. I could have walked up the stairs and knocked. I could have asked for a minute. I may have wrecked someone else's evening. Instead, I shifted back into drive and drove around the block twice until the shaking in my hands subsided. Then I headed home. I switched off my porch light for the first time since his departure. I did not do it as a huge symbol. I did it since the individuals who need a light are not currently coming to my door. They live in a brightly lit house. Mine will be lit for someone else at another time. Perhaps not for him. That's not a curse. I'm learning how to express it without making it an indictment. On Christmas morning, the mail delivered a little padded envelope. There was no return address, but the postmark came from his city. Inside was a photograph, real film, matte finish, black and white. It portrayed two pairs of hands, one larger and one smaller, with fingers linked. He had scribbled the shutter speed and f-stop in the corner, as he had done for school assignments before. On the rear, continue to grow. No name or number. I pinned it on the corkboard over my desk, next to the paper on which I scribbled, "Control is not care." They belong together. If you're looking for a tidy finale, you'll be disappointed. There is no reunion to share, no unexpected knock, and no thaw following a year-long phone call. My grief group would refer to this as acceptance. I refer to it as paying the bill. I wrote the check a year ago. It keeps clearing. I'm not a doormat. I'm not a martyr. I am a mother who made a poor decision and then decided not to make 5 more to compensate for the first. I now set boundaries, primarily for myself. I do my task. I honor my promises to children who are not mine because they show up, and they require an adult who remains in the chair when things get difficult. On Wednesdays, I drive home from the church basement, roll down the window, and feel the cold on my face to remind myself that I am living, not just a record of mistakes. People have asked me in messages why I continue to write in the first person present when the worst is over. It is not past. Regret exists in the present. So does whatever this difficult little hope is. It is not the traditional hope that everything will return to normal. That hope was made up of control, denial, and terror. This one is quieter. It sounds like me saying, if he calls me at 80, I will answer. Or like a youngster at the youth center telling a joke about his uncle and the entire room laughing. Sometimes it sounds like my own voice saying goodnight to a house that listens back. Last night, I traveled the long way again, this time to the cemetery rather than his street. I parked outside the gate because it was late and walked along the fence to the corner of the portion where the lilies bloom. I did not bring a note. I did not need one. The grass was rigid with frost, and the stars resembled pins. A little bunch of daisies rested against the stone. A folded paper lay behind a smooth rock. I did not touch it. I don't need to touch anything that is not mine anymore. On my walk home, I passed 3 houses with lights still turned on inside, people moving behind curtains, warm light on wood floors. I briefly considered pulling into my driveway and putting on the porch light. I did not. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and turned on the lamp next to the couch. The space was bright enough to see through, enough to sit, breathe, and be. The lights in their house appeared warm. I used to think that warmth equaled control. Now I understand that it is the one thing I cannot demand. I can just get here, hold it steady, and wait without bringing anyone along who doesn't want to be here. If that's my conclusion, it's an honest one. Mom said Paris was canceled due to budget issues. Then I saw 92 photos. My parents, their other kids, but not me. I cut them off when they came back. My mother's voice sounded remorseful, perhaps even embarrassed. "Sweetie, I have some disappointing news about the anniversary trip," she told me. "Your father and I had to cancel Paris. Budget concerns arose, and we simply cannot afford it right now." I felt genuine sadness for them. 30 years of marriage are worth celebrating, and they'd been preparing this trip for nearly a year. Mom had sent me links to cafes, museums, and even the little hotel they had chosen in the Marais district. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I know you were really looking forward to it." "These things happen," she said. "Maybe next year." "How are things for you?" We talked for another 20 minutes about my job, teaching high school English, my apartment, and nothing particularly significant. She seemed regular, loving as always. I am 34 years old, and I have always thought I had a close relationship with my parents. For the majority of my childhood, I was convinced that I was the only child. My childhood in suburban Connecticut was pleasant, steady, and uneventful in the best possible manner. Dad worked in insurance. Mom was a nurse who worked part-time when I began school. We held family dinners. They attended my soccer games. Normal stuff, only there was always something slightly odd that I couldn't quite identify. Small comments here and there. Mom's expressions at times were difficult to read. How specific themes were subtly shifted. A week after that phone call, I was perusing through Facebook during my lunch break, delaying on making report card comments, to be honest. That's when Ashley Reed's post arrived in my newsfeed. Ashley was one of my childhood neighbors. We were cordial, but not close. The type of individuals who liked each other's postings, but rarely communicated. Her most recent update showed her smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, with the description, "Surprise family reunion in the City of Light." Best week ever. My finger froze on the screen. I opened the album. 92 photos loaded slowly, each one twisting something further within my chest. My mother was at a cafe, wearing a striped shirt and sunglasses and holding a croissant. My father laughed, his wine glass rising. Ashley's parents, whom I had known since childhood, and 3 more people I had never seen in family photos. A woman in her mid-30s with dark curls, a man around my age with my father's nose and chin, a younger woman about 28 with my mother's eyes and smile. They were not going on the trip as buddies. The body language told a different story. The way my mother wrapped her arm around the curly-haired woman, how my father stood between the man and my mother. His hands on both their shoulders, the comfortable intimacy in each shot. Photo 16 shows all 6 of them in a restaurant, champagne glasses lifted. The caption stated, "To family, no matter how complicated." Photo 27 shows my mother and the curly-haired woman, heads together, laughing at something off camera. Photo 46 shows my father with his arms around both women, appearing happier than I had seen him in years. Photo 69, all of them in front of Notre Dame, posing like any family tourist photo, except I'm not in it. I sat in the teacher's lounge, staring at my phone, until the 5th period bell rang. My hands were shaking. Students filed past me in the corridor, and I barely saw them. She'd mentioned budget difficulties. They paid for flights to Paris, lodgings, lunches, wine, and museum tickets. Everything captured in Ashley's 92 images, which she had kindly uploaded and categorized. However, there was no money to include me. No one expressed a wish to incorporate me. I returned home that afternoon and opened my laptop, delving into old family photos for the first time. Birthday parties at which I was the sole child. Holidays with only the 3 of us. Even at extensive family events, I had never seen these 3 folks. The curly-haired woman resembled my mother's jawline. The man held my father's hands. The younger woman combined all of their looks, resulting in 3 people who looked considerably more like my parents than me. I have blonde hair and blue eyes. Both my parents are brunettes with brown eyes. They'd always say I looked like my grandma and showed me old images of a woman I somewhat resembled. I had never questioned it. My fingers moved almost instinctively, scanning adoption registries and genealogy websites for any information that could help me. But I stopped myself. If I had been adopted, they would have told me, right? Unless they felt humiliated, unless I was a mistake that they were stuck with, unless I was something they'd taken on out of obligation, while their true children, their wanted children, were elsewhere. For hours, the thoughts raced through my mind. I did not sleep. I kept going back to those images, scrutinizing every grin, casual touch, and moment of joy that I hadn't been invited to participate. The following morning, I called in sick. I spent the day staring at the walls, my phone, and nothing. Friends texted. I did not respond. There was a weight crushing down on my chest, making breathing difficult. My mother called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. She left a pleasant message about coming by this weekend and possibly going to lunch as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just returned from Paris and those 92 images didn't exist. I erased Facebook from my phone, then reinstalled it an hour later and checked the album again. Ashley had added 98 images. One featured my mother and father on top of the Arc de Triomphe, his arm around her waist, both glowing. Another photo showed all 6 of them having a candlelit meal with the remark, "Finally, everyone together. Worth the wait. Finally, everyone is together. The message was clear. I was not everyone. I was something distinct, someone different. Days have passed. I worked on autopilot at work, returned home to an empty apartment, and avoided all interaction with my parents. Mom called twice more and texted to see if I was okay. I replied with quick messages. I'm busy with work. Talk soon, she said, appearing satisfied. 3 weeks after I saw the images, my mother texted again. This time around, the tone was different. Sweetie, I need your assistance with something vital. Could you please call me when you get a minute? I looked at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to dismiss it completely. A part of me wanted to call and shout. Instead, I replied, "What is wrong?" 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing and waiting. Then her reaction came in. It is complicated. I really do need to explain over the phone. Kindly call me. It is about your father. My father is playing the concern card, the family emergency card. I could see her strategy, get me worried, get me interested, and then ask for whatever she really wanted. Money, time, or any favor she felt she deserved because I was supposed to be the beautiful daughter. The daughter who did not receive an invitation to Paris. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then I opened Facebook, looked at those photographs again, and allowed the hurt turn colder, harder, and more useful. I responded, "Is this the same father that had budget concerns with Paris? The one in the 92 Facebook images Ashley shared from your family vacation? Is that the father?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared, and disappeared. 6 minutes passed, then a dozen. Finally, "Can we please discuss this in person?" "No." "Text works fine." Another prolonged delay. I could image her panic, trying to figure out how much I knew, how I found out, and what she may say. "It's not as you think. Please allow me to explain." Explain what? Explain why you lied about canceling the trip. Explain who those 3 people are. Explain why your budget only covered 6 aircraft tickets, not 7. This time, the reaction was much faster. "You don't understand the whole situation." Something snapped. My fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "You're correct. I'm not sure why my mother would look me in the eye and lie. I don't get why you take what appears to be your other children on a fantasy vacation and then tell me the money isn't there. I don't understand why I wasted 34 years believing I was your daughter when I'm plainly not. So please clarify the circumstance." The dots emerged and disappeared multiple times. Then my phone rang. Mom called. I declined and sent another text saying, "Text only." What came back was lengthy, clearly typed, and retyped multiple times. "Those are family members I have not seen in years due to difficult circumstances. Your father and I meticulously organized this reunion so that you would not be overwhelmed by family strife that you had never experienced. We planned to tell you everything when the moment was right. This was not about excluding you. We really love you. Please believe that." I reread it 3 times. Each word was carefully chosen, and every justification was precisely made. Who are they? You are half-siblings from before your father and I got married. It is complicated. 3 half-siblings. 3 people that resembled both my parents. 3 persons who had seemingly been kept hidden my entire life. How is this even possible? You are both their parents. A lengthier pause this time. "No, we need to talk in person. This isn't something for text. Make it work for text or don't bother explaining at all." The response took over 25 minutes. "Your father has 2 children from his previous relationship. I had one. When we got together, their other parents had custody, and it was a mess. We were young. We made the decisions we thought were best. We attempted to maintain relationships with them after you were born, but it proved difficult. They were hurt and outraged. Eventually, we lost contact. They recently reached out, hoping to reconnect. We felt Paris could be a new beginning." I sat with that explanation, attempting to make it make sense. I had no idea 3 of my half-siblings existed. Relationships that ended before I was born. A reunion trip I was not informed about. Because why? So you believed lying to me and excluding me was the greatest way to deal with a fresh start. We did not want to complicate matters. They were already worried about reconnecting. Adding another person they'd never met seemed like too much. Another human. That's what I was. Too much. A complication. I'm your daughter, not another person. Of course you are. You are my baby girl, but they have been injured for a long time, and we wanted to work on healing those connections first. We were going to notify you later and maybe arrange for everyone to meet shortly." The answer was almost reasonable, made sense, and almost justified the deception. But it didn't. Not even close. "You could have told me the truth. You could have said, 'We are reconnecting with your half-siblings, and we need to make this vacation with only them first.' I am 34 years old. I would have understood. Instead, you created a falsehood about budgetary issues. I know you're correct. I apologize. It was wrong. I panicked and stated what came to mind." "When did you intend on telling me? Before or after Ashley uploaded 98 images for the world to see?" No reaction for a while. Then, "I didn't realize she was publishing images. She was not supposed to, but she did. And now I understand. So, what did you need help with?" The shift of subject seemed to catch her off guard. The dots appeared and disappeared several times before she responded. "Your father needs minor surgery next month. Nothing serious, but he will need someone to transport him home and accompany him for the first day. I have a work conference that I must skip." I read the message 5 times. She wanted me to care for my father, who had spent thousands of dollars on a Paris reunion that I was not invited to. The father who had chosen to reconnect with children who had been absent from his life for decades over being truthful with the daughter he had raised. "Ask one of your other children. They don't live nearby, and it's only one day. Please. I'm busy that week." You don't even know which week it is yet. It doesn't matter. Whatever week it is, I am occupied. Do not be childish about this. Your father needs you. Childish. She called me childish. I looked at the Facebook photographs again. My parents laughing in Paris, their other children smiling. A family is complete without me. He needed me as he was debating whether to be open about his secret family reunion. He needed me when he had to choose between lying and trusting me enough to disclose the truth. He didn't appear to need me back then. This is different. This concerns his health. This is about you requesting free caretaker work from the daughter you lied to. I apologized. What else do you want? What did I want? An explanation that made sense. A time machine could undo the betrayal. My parents truly valued me. I'd like you to understand why this hurts. I want you to imagine how it felt seeing those photos, to know that you all spent a week together making memories and being a family, while I bought your lie and felt sorry for you missing your anniversary trip. I do understand, but punishing your father by refusing to help with his surgery isn't the answer. I am not punishing anyone. I am simply unavailable, as if you were unwilling to be truthful with me, as if I were unavailable to get an invitation to Paris. You're being incredibly selfish. The word landed like a smack. Selfish. I was selfish for not quickly forgiving a lie and offering to care for someone who had purposefully excluded me from a key family occasion. Do you know what is selfish, Mom? Lying directly to your daughter's face. Spending thousands of dollars on a trip that you pretend you cannot afford while excluding her. You never mentioned your other 3 children. Then you call and ask for favors when you need them. That is selfish. Those relationships are complicated in ways you can't understand. Then help me comprehend. Tell me the full truth. Show me that you respect me enough to be honest. The dots appeared, disappeared, and reappeared. When can we meet for coffee? We cannot. You must let me explain properly. I don't need to do anything. You're the one who requires something from me, so explain here or don't. Another long wait, followed by a wall of words. Fine. Your father got married before me. They had twins, Ethan and Chloe. When they split, his ex-wife relocated to California with their children. He had summer visits, but they were dirty and terrible. I had Lily from a prior relationship. Her father was not interested. When your father and I got together, we tried to unite the family, but the kids were furious and hurt. Ethan and Chloe blame me for their parents' divorce, which occurred before I met your father. Lily felt that she was losing me. The situation was chaotic. We eventually had you, and we hoped that a baby would bring everyone together. Instead, it made matters worse. The older children felt replaced. Lily was jealous. Their other parents used everything against us. We were young and overwhelmed. We took the difficult decision to pull back and let the elder children live stable lives with their other parents rather than in constant conflict with us. We sent money, cards, and gifts, and tried to establish contact, but they eventually stopped replying. We believed we had lost them forever. Then, last year, Ethan reached out. He's married now, has perspective, and wanted to recover. Chloe and Lily felt the same way. We've been rebuilding steadily. Paris was meant to be symbolic, a new beginning. We didn't tell you because we didn't want to raise your expectations if it failed, and we didn't want to burden you with decades of family history. We wanted to protect you. I read it twice. It was the most information I'd ever received about my parents' past. It addressed the mechanics, but it didn't explain why they chose to lie over trusting me with the truth. I am 34. You did not need to defend me. You are our baby. We will always wish to safeguard you. By lying, by excluding me, making me feel like I don't matter. You're more important than anything, but it was about them, not you. It became about me the second you lied to my face. What would you like me to say? I have apologized. I have explained. I can't change what happened. I want you to know that this broke something. I want you to know you chose them over me. I'd like you to admit that your protection felt like rejection. I've never chosen them above you. I choose to approach a delicate subject cautiously. You decided to lie. Own that. Fine. I decided to lie. I was mistaken. Will you now aid your father? The arrogance of it nearly made me chuckle. An admission of fault was promptly followed by the same request she had begun with. No. He is your father. He's also someone who values reconciliation with children he hasn't seen in decades over honesty with the daughter he raised. He made his pick. I'm making mine. You'll regret this. Maybe. But right now, my main regret is that I didn't see this coming. Seeing what's coming? That I was never truly a part of your family. I was the child you had to keep. They were the kids you wanted. That's not true. Prove it. Show me one piece of evidence that I am as important to you as they are. No response. The dots appeared and faded multiple times, but no message arrived. I waited for 25 minutes. Nothing. Then 1 hour. Finally, my phone called again. Dad. This time, I declined it. He called right back. I declined again. He texted me. Your mother is very upset. Call me. I responded, I'm sure the family you spent a week with in Paris can comfort her. Do not be like this. We love you. You have a funny way of showing it. We made a mistake. Let us make things right. How are you going to uninvent the lie? Uninvite your other children to Paris and bring me instead? Travel back in time and tell me the truth from the start? Be reasonable. I'm being sensible. You lied. I found out. Now you want a favor. The reasonable answer is no. Family helps family. These words sat on my screen, loaded with sarcasm. Family helps family. My family left me out. My relatives lied to me. The family who expected me to forgive and forget because they required something. Ask your family. You currently have 3 additional children. I'm confident one of them can assist. You're being petty. I am being honest. Something I recently discovered that this family struggles with. My father did not respond. The hush lasted for hours. Around midnight, my mother texted again. Please consider what you're doing. Your father's procedure is very crucial. My emotional well-being is also crucial. Clearly less essential than your Paris reunion, but significant to me. We can sort this out. Simply help him first, then we'll sit down and hash it out. So, help me first. Then maybe you'll respect me enough to have a proper discourse. That's not how this works. What do you want from us? The question hung there. What did I want? An apology. I'd received a half-hearted one. What's the truth? She gave me a variation of it. Understanding? It seemed inconceivable. I want you to deal with the repercussions of your decisions. I want you to understand that once shattered, trust does not heal itself. I want you to feel a fraction of how I felt when I saw those photographs. So, you want revenge. I seek accountability. By refusing to assist with a medical operation, you are establishing that I am unavailable whenever you require assistance, regardless of how you treat me. This is cruel. No. Lying in someone's face and then uploading vacation images for all to see is harsh. Calling your kid juvenile and selfish because she has been harmed is cruel. I'm simply unavailable. My father responded with another long silence. I'll ask Ashley's daughter to help. She's made previous offers. Ashley, the neighbor who had uploaded all of the images, who had accompanied them to Paris, and who appeared to be more connected with my family than I was. That sounds perfect. Your mother is heartbroken. She will recover. She has 3 other children to console her. Yeah, and stop throwing that in our faces. Stop claiming you had no idea what you were doing. No further messages arrived that night. The next morning, I received an email from my mother, long, thorough, and emotional. She talked again about the delicate family relationships, her desire to protect me, and her unwavering love for me. She promised to prepare a unique trip for just the 3 of us. She swore it would never happen again. She made no apologies for calling me selfish. She did not admit that lying was wrong beyond a simple "mistakes were made" comment. She didn't seem to get why trust wasn't instantaneously restored. I did not respond. Days turned into weeks. My father's surgery came and went. According to Facebook, Ashley's daughter did assist. Mom thanked her, referring to her as an angel in our time of need. She said nothing about her actual daughter, who rejected to help. I blocked them both on social media and changed my relationship status to "it's complicated" as a private joke with myself. Friends inquired if everything was fine with my parents. I gave vague replies about growing apart, the need for space, and family differences. The facts seemed too difficult to describe. How do you tell people that you found your parents had 3 more children that they had kept concealed throughout your life? That they had taken those youngsters on a fantasy vacation while lying to you about their financial problems? That when questioned, they apologized but then quickly requested favors? It sounded absurd even in my own thoughts. A month after the surgery, my mother delivered flowers to my school, a large, expensive arrangement with a note reading, "Missing my daughter. Love, Mom." I presented them to the school secretary. 2 months later, my father arrived at my apartment. I saw him through the glass, but did not answer the door. He knocked for 12 minutes before leaving an envelope under the doorstep. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages long. He shared his thoughts on the divorce, losing custody, and the sorrow of estrangement from his elder children. He talked about how important having me was to him, how much he wanted and loved me. He explained that the Paris trip was his idea, a desperate attempt to repair decades-old wounds before it was too late. He still has not apologized for the untruth. The letter concluded with, "I hope one day you will forgive us. We are still your parents. We still love you. The door is constantly open." I tucked the letter away and tried to get on with my life, but the hurt remained fresh. Every time I saw a family together, I thought about those images. Every time someone addressed their parents, I felt a sense of betrayal. Every holiday without communication felt difficult and essential. 4 months after everything broke apart, Ethan added me as a Facebook friend. I gazed at the request for a long time. My half-brother, one of the persons in those Paris images, and one of the reasons I'd been rejected. I accepted it out of curiosity. He sent a message instantly. "Hey, I realize this is strange. Our parents told us what had transpired. I wanted to reach out directly." Against my better judgment, I replied, "Why?" "Because they botched up. Chloe, Lily, and I spoke about it. We didn't realize they had lied to you. We assumed you knew about us and chose not to attend." Something loosened in my chest. "They told you I couldn't make it. They heard you were busy at work. We were truly disappointed that we wouldn't get to meet you." I sat back and processed. They had lied to everyone. I was informed about budgetary concerns. I told them I was too busy, kept us apart while claiming it was for everyone's advantage. "Have they told you anything about me before to the trip?" Honestly, not much. We knew we had a younger half-sister. That's about it. They kept everything relatively separate. We assumed it was because you were not interested in connecting. I didn't know you existed until I saw the Paris photos. Are you serious? Completely. I was 34 years old and had never heard of any of you. Holy, that's really messed up. I am sorry. Not your fault. Still, for what it's worth, we'd like to get to know you if you're interested, without our parents involved. I thought about it. These were my siblings. Whether I knew about them or not, they had not sought to be kept private. They had not made the decision to exclude me. Maybe. I still need time to comprehend everything. I completely understand. I'll be here when you're ready. The conversation ended, but something had changed. The fury was still present, but it found a new focus. My parents' decisions had caused harm to many people. They had kept siblings apart. They had lied to everyone involved, and they still didn't seem to realize what they had done wrong. My mother left a voicemail for me on my birthday 4 months after our vacation to Paris. She was crying, telling me how much she missed me and how she hoped I would reconsider excluding them from my life. I did not call back. Instead, I texted Ethan, "I believe I'm ready to discuss more. Coffee sometime?" His response was quick. "Absolutely. Chloe and Lily have also been inquiring about you. We could all get together if you wish. Let's start with only you. Build up to the group setting." Deal. We met the following week at a cafe located midway between our apartments. He resembled his Facebook photos, tall, with my father's features and my mother's coloring. It felt weird to see him in person. We talked for 4 hours about his childhood, his memories of visits with his father that ended when he was 14, the bewilderment and hurt of being driven out of his father's life, and the surprise of reconnecting and discovering he had a sister who had been kept in the dark. They tried to control everything, he informed me, place everyone in separate boxes. I think they honestly thought it was for the best. The best for whom? I asked. For them, so they didn't have to deal with the messiness of blended family complications. It made twisted sense. My parents attempted to avoid problems by compartmentalizing their life, but in doing so, they caused more anguish than if they had simply been honest from the beginning. Do you believe they will ever realize what they did? I asked. Ethan shrugged. I do not know. Mom continues to try to rationalize it. Dad typically keeps quiet. They're wounded because you're not talking to them, but I don't think they understand why. They called me selfish. Of course they did. Taking accountability is difficult. We began meeting regularly. Then I met Chloe, who was intelligent, humorous, and possessed my mother's wit. Then came Lily, who was both quiet and warm. 3 siblings I'd never met. 3 people who knew what it was like to be controlled and manipulated by parents who thought they knew best. 6 months after Paris, Chloe sent a group message. The parents want to prepare a family supper. All of us. They are asking if we think you will come. I stared at the message. Half of me wanted to reject on principle, but another half was tired of constantly being furious. Do they want to truly apologize or simply pretend nothing happened? Chloe responded, "Not sure. Do you want me to ask?" "Yes. And tell them that pretending is not an option." She responded an hour later. Dad says he's prepared to have a difficult chat. Mom is resistant, but she swears she will try. Not good enough. Both of them must accept responsibility for their actions. Full accountability. No excuses. Ethan said, "We can be there as backup if you want." The thought of confronting my parents with my siblings present felt right. They could not gaslight me if there were witnesses. You couldn't call me childish or selfish in front of an audience. Okay, I will come. However, there are certain ground rules. They apologize nicely. They explain why they chose each option, and they understand that trust must be rebuilt, not commanded. Lily responded, "We'll make sure they understand before we confirm." The meal was scheduled for the next month at my parents' place, which felt like entering enemy territory. But I had spent 34 years thinking that house was my home. Perhaps it was time to recapture it, or let it go permanently. The night of the dinner, I arrived with Ethan. Having him around made me feel braver. Chloe and Lily were already inside. My mom opened the door. She seemed older and thinner than I remembered, with red eyes. "Hi, sweetie," she murmured quietly. "Mom." We stood awkwardly until Ethan gently led me inside. The dining room table was arranged formally. My father stood as we arrived. He appeared uncomfortable in a way I hadn't seen previously. We all sat. The tension was suffocating. Eventually, my father cleared his throat. "Thanks for coming. We understand it hasn't been easy." I waited and said nothing. "We wanted to explain ourselves," Mom said, "to help you understand." "No," I interrupted. "We are not going to explain things first. First and foremost, I apologize. Real ones." They exchanged glances. Chloe gave them an encouraging nod. Dad talked first. "We're sorry we lied about our Paris trip. We assumed it would be easier than explaining the problem, but we were mistaken. It hurt you, and that was not our aim. It was better than nothing. Barely." "And?" I prompted. Mom drew a breath. "And we apologize for how we handled the entire affair, for being dishonest about your siblings, for attempting to control everyone individually rather than bringing you all together, For calling you selfish when you were clearly hurt. Why did you do this? I asked. The actual cause, not the protective parent argument, the actual truth. They were silent for a long time. Then Dad replied, because it was easier. Because coping with the complexities of blended families, including damaged feelings and competing needs, was exhausting. Because we were selfish and preferred to avoid uncomfortable conversations. There it was. The truth. We convinced ourselves it was for everyone's benefit, my mother said. But actually, it was for us. We did not want to confront the implications of our previous decisions. We did not want to confess that we had failed to maintain relationships with Ethan, Chloe, and Lily. Starting over with them seemed like a second chance, and including you entailed admitting all the ways we had kept everyone apart. Tears were scorching my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Do you know why that hurt so much? Yes, Mom whispered. You were the daughter we raised, the one who was always present, but we treated you as if you were less important than the children we had lost. That was incorrect. That was extremely wrong. The only sound in the room was my mother crying. I love you, she stated. I love you so much, and I betrayed your confidence. I'm not sure whether I'll ever be able to remedy that, but I'd want to try, however long it takes. I looked around the table at my father, who appeared truly sorry, at Ethan, Chloe, and Lily, who were all watching with encouraging looks. My mother was coming apart. It's going to take time, I admitted. A lot of time. And absolute honesty from now on. No more managing me. No more falsehoods, no matter how minor. No more treating me as if I'm too frail to handle the reality. We can do that, Dad said. We will do that. And therapy. Family therapy is for all of us. Mom nodded. Whatever you need. I'm not ready to forgive yet, I replied gently, but I'm willing to try to rebuild. That's more than we deserve, she explained. Perhaps it was. Maybe I was being overly generous, but I got weary of being furious. I was tired of the unhealed wound, tired of spending holidays alone and receiving unreturned birthday voicemails. The supper was odd, but not bad. We basically talked about the surface. Ethan shared stories that made everyone chuckle. Chloe inquired about my job. Lily shared photos of her kitten. My parents were cautious around me, deferential in a way they hadn't been previously. It felt odd, yet necessary. When I left, my mother hugged me at the door. I let her, even though it made me uneasy. Thank you for coming, she muttered. Thank you for giving us a chance. I drove home with Ethan, and we were both quiet. That was intense, he finally stated. Yeah, you okay? I do not know. Maybe. For what it's worth, I believe you handled it well. You didn't let them off easily, but you also didn't entirely close the door. I wanted to, I confessed. Some of me still does. However, another part of me want to reunite with my family, another side of my family, one in which everyone is honest. That is fair. That is actually healthy. We drove silently for a while longer. Then Ethan added, I am delighted we met. All that aside, I'm delighted I have a sister. Something warm stretched across my chest. Me too. The healing process was slow, painful, and essential therapy sessions, dinners where old wounds were painstakingly probed, conversations in which my parents were forced to face their embarrassment rather than avoid it. My mother battled the most. She desired rapid forgiveness and the restoration of normalcy. However, normalcy had disappeared. We were creating something new, and she needed to accept it. My father was quieter but more consistent. He showed up for each therapy session. He listened more than he talked. He accepted my restrictions without complaining. A year after Paris, the 8 of us traveled to Boston, a place none of us had visited before. Neutral terrain for a family attempting to figure out who they were to one another. We walked the Freedom Trail, ate seafood in the North End, and snapped shots that included everyone. On the last night, while sitting in a restaurant facing the water, my mother raised her glass. To second chances, she remarked, and to the daughter who was brave enough to demand better from us. It was not ideal. The pain had not gone away, but we were trying, honestly, haphazardly, and poorly. Ethan caught my gaze across the table and smiled. Chloe squeezed my hand. Lily laughed at something Dad said, and for the first time in a year, I felt as if I belonged to something real. not the neatly crafted fantasy that my parents had maintained for decades, not the segmented relationships they'd attempted to control, but something genuine, based on truth, accountability, and the hard effort of those who decided to participate. My mother still sought to rationalize her decisions. My father still struggled to convey his emotions. They tried, though, and I was discovering that sometimes just trying is enough. The thrill of watching them face the repercussions of their misdeeds had evolved into something more valuable than my initial desire for revenge. I had regained my voice. I had created boundaries. I had discovered siblings I never knew I needed. My parents had realized that love without honesty isn't true love at all. When people asked about my family now, I gave a different response than before. I have siblings. We were figuring stuff out. My parents and I had gone through a difficult time, but we were rebuilding. The truth, as chaotic as it was, felt better than the well-crafted lies I'd been fed my entire life. My mother called again 2 years after the initial phone conversation concerning budget difficulties. This time, her voice was hopeful yet guarded. "I wanted to run something by you," she explained. "Your father and I are planning another trip, a large family one. We'd like to invite everyone, and if you're interested, you can help plan it." I thought about the girl who sat in a teacher's lounge, staring at images of Paris, feeling worthless and ostracized, about the woman I'd become, someone who recognized her worth and demanded respect. "Where were you thinking?" "We thought maybe you could choose somewhere you've always wanted to go." "Italy," I said immediately. "I've always wanted to see Italy." "So Italy it is. Will you help me plan it?" "On one condition." "Name it." "There are no lies about anything. Even if you believe you're protecting someone, even if it is uncomfortable. Complete honesty." "I promise," she replied. And for the first time in years, I trusted her. 8 months later, the 8 of us stood in front of the Colosseum, taking a family portrait. This time, I was in the center, with my mother's arm over my shoulders, my father on the opposite side, and my siblings encircling us. Ethan captured the photograph using a timer. We counted down together, smiling. Later, when my mother shared it on Facebook with the message, "Family finally complete," I didn't feel the pang I expected. Instead, I felt near to peace. Ashley Reed said, "Beautiful family." I appreciated her reply since it was accurate. We were beautiful, in our shattered, rebuilt, and convoluted way. That night, over wine at a Trieste restaurant, Chloe asked me, "Do you think you've forgiven them?" I thought about the question thoroughly. I believe I have accepted what happened and decided to go on. Is this the same as forgiveness? I'm not sure, but it's enough for now. "That's fair," Lily replied. "Forgiveness is overrated anyway. Accountability works better." My mother overheard and shuddered slightly, but did not dispute. She had learned not to. "To accountability," said Ethan, raising his glass. We all clinked glasses together, and in that moment, surrounded by individuals who had been strangers 2 years prior, but were now unmistakably family, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: optimism. The kind of hope that comes from working hard to improve things, rather than pretending everything is good. From expressing the truth, even when it is painful. From demanding respect and extending grace in equal measure. My phone vibrated. A text from a pal back home. "How was the trip?" I gazed around the table at my imperfect parents, who were actually trying, my siblings, who'd become my best supporters, and the crazy, wonderful family we'd all chosen to create together. I responded, "Complicated but nice." "Very good."